a deep felt need out there with people to talk about real things, the things that matter. And so if I were going to have you over for dinner with my wife Stacy and I, we talk about on the air the things we would talk about over dinner or via coffee or what have you. And so it's real life conversation. We talk about growing businesses, finding your personal significance, and so forth and so on. And so it's a really fun show. We don't take ourselves that seriously, but we take you real seriously. And then the book came out in April, and it was a fun thing. I host the Catalyst Leadership Conference. Anybody heard of Catalyst? It happens every October here in Gwinnett County at the Gwinnett Civic Center. Faith-based, a lot of business people, but I've had the opportunity to interview some really heavy hitter people. And so we wrote the book, and it was a book that I wrote for myself. And each chapter is 4 pages long. I wanted to get you to the content fast. And what we did was 2 things. I highlight the power of asking questions, because that's what I do. Come on in, y'all. You can come on in and grab a seat. And I did it by asking 34 different one-question interviews. Some of the brightest people in our world. And I divided the book into 3 sections: succeeding, surviving, and sustaining. Those are 3 seasons of life that we all go through. Sometimes we're straddling all 3. And so if you want to, you can check that out. We'll have that available to you when I'm done. All right, so I'm going to be respectful of your time because I know it's at the end of the day, and so I'm going to keep this tight. But I want to speak to you about something that I'm sharing all around the country. I spoke to 10,000 college students recently on this topic. I spoke to the Gwinnett Chamber of Commerce on a similar topic. And the topic is, how do we find our sweet spot? Now, I understand in a room full of successful people like this, we're going to have some people who are living in their sweet spot. But without embarrassing anybody, let me just be real honest with you tonight. Okay? That's all I ever am, is really gut level honest. But the reason that people are really resonating with this message is because most people in life never figure out what their personal sweet spot is. And so this was shared to me by my mentor when I was in my young 20s. And we got a whiteboard over here, so this is kind of a fun, intimate setting. And so we're going to get real tonight. So I'm going to walk over here, and I want to illustrate it to you. I can write on this, right, Jay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So a mentor shared this with me when I was in my young 20s, and it's unbelievable. And so this is huge for leaders who are managing people, and it's huge for parents, and it might just be huge for somebody in this room tonight. Okay? So here we go. What is the sweet spot? I mean, you know what I'm saying, but what's it look like, right? How do we figure it out? Well, my mentor drew this out on a napkin for me. It blew my mind, and it set me on a great course for my life. Here we go. So we drew one line like this, and he wrote strengths. Okay, and I got really bad handwriting, right? So that's strengths. And then he drew another line like this, and he wrote passion. And he said, your sweet spot lies at the intersection of your greatest strength and your greatest passion, right? So an exercise that very few of us ever do. I had never done it, and I'm one of the most ambitious people you've ever met. I mean, I've just always been a driver and going hard, but I'd never seen this before. So you plot your strengths out, right? What are my greatest strengths? And by the way, when I'm going through this exercise, don't check out on me personally, because this works as well for a company as it does a person. You would show me a stuck company, I'll show you a company that has no idea what their sweet spot is. It's just absolutely guaranteed. And so you plot your strengths. What's my great passion? Now, let me tell you what the sweet spot is not, and I'll pick on myself, okay? We'll have fun with me. Passion. Let's look at the passion line. This is where a lot of people aren't quite sure. Even the most dishonest of people know in their heart of hearts what they're good at and what they're bad at, right? Let's look at passion for a moment. And you're going to see where most people and organizations miss. So if we pick on me, I have a huge passion for the game of basketball. I mean, I love basketball. My dad used to joke that I was born with a basketball in my hands, why my mom was so big. I was a little baby. But here's what happens. I'm real high up here on basketball. Basketball's way high on my passion line. But look at me. I'm a 5'9" white dude who can barely jump over paper. It's really low down here, right? So there's no intersection there. Here's what we're looking for, right? Now, what's happening there? What's happening there is high on my passion line, but if I try to do it for a living, I'd starve. Right? Very simple. Now, let's look at American Idol. Let's look at our culture for a moment. Okay? American Idol. We've all seen the early rounds where the kids come into audition, and they got a camera on them like this, and the kid looks at the camera and he goes, I'm really good. I mean, I can sing really good. Everybody in my life tells me I can sing really good. And you know what you do at home, right? There's this collective cringe pucker factor, right? Because we think it's probably going to be awful, and maybe every once in a while it's real, okay? And it really happens. Kid sings, They're awful. They butcher the song, and the experts say you can't sing. What happens? They get mad. They storm out. They swear at the camera. They flip the camera off. And I don't know if you've noticed it, but I have because I'm a parent of young kids now. But when the show first came on, I just laughed with everybody else. And now as a dad, I get really sad. You know why? Because there's always a parent skulking in the background. You noticed it? The camera's following the kid out, the kid's storming out, and the kid's angry, and they're swearing at the camera, and you see mom and dad going. You're laughing because I'm right. Why? Why are mom and dad doing that? Because they help perpetuate the lie. At some point, the kid said, Mom, Dad, do you think I could sing?
Yes, honey.
And the parent, yes. And listen, we all can fall prey to that. It's just natural about us, right? We just want to say, sure, you can sing. What does it matter if I lie to my kid? Until they go on national television and humiliate themselves. This is important. I'm having fun, but I'm really trying to set up the importance. So I picked on me and the kids on American Idol. Now let's get real messy. Can we get real transparent tonight? Let's flip this. Let's look at corporate America. Some of you in the room tonight are people you work with or maybe people you lead. On today's radio show, I cited a new study from Gallup. 70% of the American workforce hates their job and is disengaged. 70%. Do you know why? It's not just because we have bad leaders. It's because people will know what this is. Here's what's happening. We have people in America, in our neighborhoods, in our small groups, in the workout groups, guys we play ball with, girls we exercise with, whatever it is, who are really good at their job. It's really high up here, but it's really low down here. So in the American Idol or the Ken Coleman basketball scenario, what's happening, right? High on my passion line. What happens there? People are confused. Well, I don't get it. I really love doing this. How come it's not happening for me? But over here, this is the scary stuff. You're knocking down big money. You've got everything. You got the 2.5 cars, the dog, the vacations, everything. But you hate your job and you hate your life. This is real. That's why zombie shows and zombie movies are huge. We can identify it, right? We got people that are walking through life Monday through Friday. Oh, I just gotta get to Friday. Right? Just get me to Friday. My mentor, John Maxwell, calls them Cape Canaveral people. Right? They come to work on Monday morning, they spend the rest of the week counting down to Friday afternoon. It's huge. The sweet spot. Now, let me tell you a great sweet spot story. My favorite sweet spot story that illustrates this. Do you guys, let me just ask you a question. Anybody want to venture a guess tonight? Who's the highest grossing entertainer in history? Anybody want to take a guess? Anybody? Come on. Highest grossing entertainer. Who?
Elvis Presley?
Elvis, good guess. Give me a couple more.
Samuel L. Jackson.
Samuel Jackson. No, not even close. What else? Anything else? One more.
John Lennon.
John Lennon. You ready for this? The highest grossing entertainer in the history of the world is David Copperfield.
Oh yes, I kind of knew that.
David Copperfield, the magician. Now there's a guy in here that saw me give this talk earlier, so don't blow it. Who was that? Somebody watched this talk online. Okay, let me tell you what happens with David Copperfield. This is my favorite story that illustrates what real sweet spot living looks like. He was on Oprah's new show, and I watch Oprah. I don't care if you don't like Oprah or not. I'm an interview geek, and she's got a new show called Oprah's Next Chapter. And she goes to the houses of very successful people, and she spends time with them. And so she goes to the Bahamas to hang out with David Copperfield. Now, David Copperfield has sold $4 billion in tickets. Most of those in Las Vegas, because he does 6 nights a week, 2 shows a night. You start doing the math. The guy's rolling. He bought 10 islands in the Bahamas. So David's doing all right. She's hanging out with David on his island. They're having a conversation. About midway through, she asked him a question. He says something that just blew me away because I said, that's the sweet spot. She said, David, how in the world did you figure out that you wanted to do magic and illusions? He said, well, I was a little kid, about 8, 9, 10 years old, somewhere in that range, and his mom and dad take him to New York City and Manhattan for a day trip. They stumble into a magic shop, and just like all of us when we go into those shops, we watch these guys do these little tricks at the counter. They buy him some tricks, take him home, and they realize he's really good at it. So they buy him more and more, and it progresses, and before you know it, he's a child performer in nightclubs. And everybody knows what David knows, that he's brilliant at doing illusions. He said, but Oprah, he said, what I really loved were stories. He said, I loved reading old books, novels, and going to Broadway plays and all these kind of things. He said, so at some point, I just figured out that what I wanted to do with my life was figure out a way to tell stories with my magic. You see it? Look over there. His strength, off the charts doing tricks and illusions. But what he really loved were stories. So he figured out a way to tell stories with his magic. It's a great illustration of the sweet spot. So let's look at that for a moment. Let's stop for a moment because we're talking a lot about individual stuff, but this is huge for your kids. And so if it's true what I told you tonight, that 70% of the American workforce hates their job and is disengaged, and if it's true that what I'm telling you, that most people have never had a mentor pull them aside and share with me what I'm sharing with you, if that's true, and I think it is, then the people you're managing, the people you're leading, they've never had this discussion with themselves. They have no idea. So it's not a shock that 70% of the workforce is disengaged. You know why? Because as Jim Collins said in Good to Great, they're on the wrong seat on the bus. I said this on the radio tonight. This is huge for leaders. You want your company to be in the sweet spot, you have to do this exercise. You look at your core mission, your core values. This really matters to small business people. Because if you're working for a larger company, you don't have as much effect on that. But what is your company's greatest strength? If you're an entrepreneur, small business, what's your greatest strength? What's your passion? What did you set out to do? All the great entrepreneurs figured out one thing, that there was a problem they saw in that moment, and they felt that there was a solution and they wanted to solve it. That's all entrepreneurship is. And let me make a non-political statement, okay? Because my show's not about politics, and for one reason, I'm sick and tired of the lack of leadership coming out of our capital, and I mean on both sides of the aisle. So everybody understands what I'm saying. I'm not labeling one party or the other. I'm talking both parties. And it's not even political. I don't care what party you are. I want you to lead. And if it's true that we walk out of our house every day and we don't look to Washington, D.C. to help us figure out how to create jobs, then I'm for the rise of the entrepreneur class. I'm so sick of the Republicans and the Democrats talking about the middle class like it's the ultimate destination. Who among us woke up in high school or college one day and said, I just want to make it to the middle class?
Just want to be mediocre.
Your laughter says it all. That's exactly right. Hey, listen, who among us is like, hey, sweetheart, let's go out Friday night, go to an average restaurant and watch an average movie and then order an average dessert? Nobody says that. So why are we talking about average like it's the destination? The reason? Hauntingly, honestly, I'm talking to me tonight. So I think we've allowed ourselves to accept the status quo. We stop asking the big question. I wrote a book about questions because I believe it needs to be a question revolution. Because the reason nobody ever figures out their sweet spot is because they never ask the right questions. Now there's one question we come into this world with. I don't care who you are. Race, creed, really doesn't matter. We all come into this world with a question of why am I here, right? We all crave significance. You want to matter, you want to matter, you want to raise kids that matter, you want to build a business that matters. That's a question. So we have to keep asking questions. I tell young people when I speak, first we say, how do we figure out what you're supposed to do in life? You figure out what you're designed to do. How do you figure out what you're designed to do? You go through that exercise. What do you do when you find your sweet spot? Because this plays for a company too, okay? So this is the next transition. Let me check my time, because I want to keep us going, and I want to honor your time. Okay, about 8 more minutes, and I think I'll land the plane. 8 to 10. So what do we do when we find our sweet spot? As a company or as an individual? It's not enough to find our sweet spot. I believe the world's full of two kind of people. The people that have never found their sweet spot. Those are the zombies, right, that I illustrated earlier. They have no idea. They just want to self-medicate. They're numb to the world. And there's another type of people, and I think this is sadder than the zombies. It's the people who have found their sweet spot. They know what their sweet spot is, but they don't step in it and stay there. So what do you do when you find your sweet spot as a company or as an individual? You have to then step into your sweet spot, and this is the most important part. You got to stay there. My favorite step in it, stay there story. I love stories. Even if you're not an NBA fan, you'll remember the story last year, the New York Knicks point guard. Everybody remember this? Unbelievable story. Unbelievable story. Young man has been cut. He goes to Harvard. Okay? Jeremy Lin. You know his name. Jeremy Lin goes to Harvard, plays 4 years at Harvard. He's Asian and he goes to Harvard, plays basketball. Do you think he was stereotyped? Yeah. NBA general managers didn't even look at the kid. He was a great basketball player. He gets cut twice before the season started last year. One by the Golden State Warriors, two by the Houston Rockets. He winds up with the New York Knicks at the start of the season on a temporary contract. Okay? Sleeping on his brother's couch in Manhattan. You know the story well, but it's important to understand. What happens? He tells his brother 2 nights before he gets in the first game, I think I'm done with this. I think I'm going to quit. I can't do this anymore. Now watch this. I tell the story because I hate motivational speakers who just make it all like it's simple, easy, and it's just a formula. No, it's not. He knows his great strength. He knows his great passion. He's in his sweet spot, but what's happening? He's ready to quit. Just because we're in our sweet spot doesn't mean that everything goes great. There's still going to be valleys. There's going to be hurdles and detours, but the sweet spot, knowing our sweet spot, allows us when life knocks us off course. We know where to get back on. So Jeremy Lin's ready to quit. He doesn't quit. The rest is history. He goes to the game. He's the 13th guy on the team. He's playing words with friends on the end of the bench. And the New York Knicks stink. Finally, the coach says, Lin, get in the game. And Lin goes in, and the rest is history. He turns the New York Knicks around, becomes a worldwide sensation, and signs a mega million deal with the Houston Rockets, one of the teams that cut him the first time around. What happened there? What happened there? He stepped in his sweet spot, and then he stayed there. You know the phrase we all use all the time? You'll be at a cocktail party or maybe a mixer like this, and you'll be talking about somebody who'll say, did you hear about Frank? Did you hear about Sue? Great stuff, right? And inevitably somebody will go, yeah, you know, right place, right time. As if it's some sort of mythical, I stumbled into it. Woo! Hey, here's success. I want to banish the phrase. I'd rather say this. He or she was in the right place and the right time happened. I tell this to everybody that'll listen because it's what's happening in my life right now. I'm not an expert. I'm a young guy who's pursuing his dream, raising 3 kids, trying to be a good husband, and I jumped out big time, big step of faith. I'm experiencing this. This isn't motivational mumbo jumbo. What happens? What happens there? If we're in the right place, then the right time will find us. So I'd like to reinvent the phrase and go, you know what? The right place is all that matters. Spend all of your time getting in the right place as a company. If you're a company and you're looking for a breakthrough, you're on a management team, you're trying to change culture internally, whatever the challenge is, you put all your effort, all your planning, everything into getting to the right place. And let me tell you what will happen. If you stay there, the right time will come along. Jeremy Lin's just one of billions of stories like that. Because this is true. If you're not in the right place, the right time will never happen. It just won't. It can't. I got to spend a day with John Wooden, the legendary coach from UCLA one time. And we were just talking. I got to host him for a day, and he said something famously once that I'll share with you on this on opportunity. He said, when opportunity comes, it's too late to prepare. When opportunity comes, it's too late to pull it together and get ready. That's why being in the right place really matters. So one of the questions we got to ask, and we got to be really honest. I'm going to take a bit of a detour here and be really, really vulnerable. I struggled for a few years, and I believe it was a time when I stunted my growth because I was so busy looking at other people, comparing myself to other people. It's natural. But I was so concerned with comparing my beginning to someone else's middle, as my friend John Acuff says. Boy, that's terrible. That'll kill you. It'll kill you as an organization. It'll kill you personally. It'll absolutely crush you. Because all you can do is focus on what everybody else is. You to focus on you. And you to get in the right place, and when your opportunity comes, then you'll flourish. You got to know your story. Now, one thing I got to share with some doers and achievers like this in this room, and again, I'm picking on myself. I'll be really honest with you. The number one temptation that Ken Coleman faces, and a lot of you face it, and it can knock you off path as well. And here's what it is. When you get into the sweet spot, because I'm in my sweet spot, got a good book going, people are buying it, they like it, people want me to speak, I got a radio show every day, things are starting to happen, some TV things starting to bubble up, right? I'm in my sweet spot, I haven't made it, I'm not a big shot, but I'm in my sweet spot. But what happens in this moment? A guy like me, I'm always thinking about the next. And that's okay. Leaders think about the next. But here's what I don't want us to do. This is what I struggle with. Don't obsess about the next. Because if we obsess about the next, we'll miss what we need in the now. Watch this. And ultimately sacrifice the next. I want to say that again. You won't hurt my feelings, but I'm going to give some of you a chance to write this down or tweet it. This is big. I'm dead serious. If we obsess about the next as company leaders, we obsess what's next about our companies. We obsess about what's next in our personal lives, in our professional lives. If we obsess about what's next, we'll miss what we need in the now and ultimately sacrifice the next. Who am I supposed to learn from now? Who am I supposed to serve right now? Who am I supposed to love right now? Who am I supposed to mentor? Whatever it is. What are your questions that you need to be asking about the now? Now, I'm a person of faith. I don't overwhelm people with it. I don't preach, but I would tell you something. If you're a person of faith, I believe I'm where I'm supposed to be right now on purpose. He put me there. So if he put me there, he's got something for me. Now, if you're not a person of faith, it still works. What do you need to focus on in the now? Because sometimes it's all we think about is what's next. And we never get to next because we blew what we needed in the now. We missed it. We didn't lead the people we needed to lead the now. We hired somebody thinking they were going to get us to the next really quick. And they would have got us there, but we didn't do what we needed to do for them as leaders in the now. You see what I'm saying? Whatever the example is, that's a really huge truth. So it's simply about finding the sweet spot in your personal and professional life. It's about helping the people on your team find their sweet spot. If you can teach this to your people and hire for this, it's huge. I'm going to tell you something. I am not a big shot human resource guy, but if I could speak to every human resource manager in America, I'd say, here's what I'd want you to do. I want you to do 3 things above and beyond what you probably already do. Make sure they've got a personality test, and make sure they got a strength finders test. And then walk them through that. And I mean make them come clean on that. If you got to get them to cry at Starbucks, get them honest with themselves here. Because when they reveal that information, and when that information lines up with the job you got for them, boom, they are going to rock and you're going to rock. I'm just telling you, leadership is not that difficult. It's just not. But we've got to be honest with ourselves and honest with our people, whether we're leading them on a vision or we're trying to hire them. It's so huge. I'll close with a fun, inspiring story about what it looks like in the sweet spot. I mentioned American Idol a little earlier. My wife and I love that show. It's so cool. I love watching people undiscovered. I like finding the jewels along with you all as I sit in the theater and we watch this or whatever. And I love seeing somebody go from the unsung, you've never heard of them, they look like they're scared to death and they blossom. One of my favorite examples of that was 2 seasons ago with Hollie Cavanagh. If you remember, she was a little petite blonde from up northeast. She had a thick accent. And I remember in the first early auditions, she was very, very quiet. She had a great voice. I mean, really powerful. She made it through the early rounds and she gets to that top 12 or whatever it is, you know, the first night where it's big time. They got a huge live crowd. You got to understand, some of these kids have never even seen more than 200 people in the room. So they know there's millions watching and thousands in the room. She steps up. And I'll never forget, she walks out. And you could just see, you know she's an introvert. There's nothing wrong with that. That's just who she is. If she's just like this, you could just see it. As a dad, I'm just going, oh, sweetheart, please nail this song, right? I just want to give her a hug, you know, and give her one more atta girl. And this little shy girl steps onto the stage, just looks like she's overwhelmed. And the music starts and she begins to sing, and what happens? She just transforms. There's this biochemical change. You can see it happening on the TV screen. And she turns into this unbelievable butterfly. And she sings this unbelievable song and she towers these notes. And she's crushed it. She's blown away the crowd. She's blown away us at home. She's blown away the judges. What's happening? She's singing her song. She's singing her song. The sweet spot is your song. One of the most haunting quotes I share all the time, and I want to leave this with you, and I'll close with this. Henry David Thoreau, the great American poet, once said, think about this. So many years ago he said this, and it's still true. He said, most men, back then he just said men, I'll add the word women if you'll allow me. Most men and women lead lives of quiet desperation. Quiet desperation. And go to the grave with the song still in them. Most men and women lead lives of quiet desperation and go to the grave with the song in them. Listen, I know I'm hyper, and some of you are sitting there going, what is this guy slipping his drink? But I'm passionate about this message. Those that know me know that I believe this. Because I see men and women all around us that don't know their song, or they know their song and they're afraid to sing it. How dare you live that way? How dare you raise children to live that way? Sir, I want you to sing your song. Not the song your daddy wanted you to sing, right? Not the song your mama wanted you to sing, not the song that grandmama wanted you to sing. I don't care who it is, not the song your boss wants you to sing. What's your song? What is it? And then let me flip it for a moment to our companies. Stop trying to sing a song that another company's singing. Sing your version of the song. Our world is screaming out for authenticity. You know this is true. You want to be a leader, you want to make a difference in this world, just be authentic. Just be you. Sing your song. Sing it to your last breath. I hope they say about me when I go, he sang his song. It may have been loud and obnoxious, too fast, but he sang his song. I want you to sing your song. I want you to raise kids that find their song. There's a massive pressure with our young people today to sing somebody else's song. And in this room tonight, there's massive potential. I love what Mac is doing. This stuff matters. How do we help each other? How do we help each other sing? If I could play fiddle, backup vocals, I'll do it. And I mean that. And so with that, I'll say thank you very much for your attention. I hope this has helped you. And go sing your song. Thank you.
Thank you.